Talking about my top 5 cases of 2025 the entire year, number 5 is going to be the revolver case. Now the revolver case is working with a huge disadvantage inside the current market, and that's going to be the fact that it is so expensive. Honestly, it's the most expensive case on this list, and it's one of the most valuable cases I think you can grab as an investor for a couple different reasons. First up, revolver case is absolutely perfect in the recovery situation. It's usually one of the first to recover, and honestly, it's got a very healthy unboxing for the amount of this case that is out there. We don't know for certain, but this case does not seem to have a super massive supply. And honestly, I think it's a really desirable one. Being the cheapest option most of the time to get those rare OG knives, it's something that's always going to be appealing to everyone, especially as we move on time-wise. I think if you're looking for something that's going to be a much more safer option, as it's obviously much more expensive, much more developed, I think the revolver case is probably going to be one of your best options if you're looking at a little bit more expensive of a case. It's not going to have the most massive ROI, but it's a lot safer than some of the other cases we're going to be talking about. SkinSwap just went ahead and dropped their biggest update ever. Not only are they sponsoring you with that top link in the description, but they're also introducing backpacks, allowing you to buy any item on the site and it's going to be personally held for you. Their trading feature is often told to be the best in the business, offering near instant trades, taking under 30 seconds right now. And their selling feature is instant as well, offering PayPal, crypto, and tons of different options if you're looking to get your money this second. And finally, they've always got that 40% deposit bonus if you're looking to pick up some brand new skins, so try them out today. There's no reason not to. Now, one case that we need to mention as a little bit of an outlier is going to be the gallery case. Now, I'll be completely honest, a lot of people are going to take the gallery case, they're going to compare it to some discontinued cases. We are going to talk about those in a quick second, but obviously the gallery case is not that. In my personal opinion, we need to treat the gallery case like it's going to be a reoccurring case until it's not. Now, we obviously don't know how long the armory is going to be sticking around, if we're going to get a new case of the armory. There's so many different things that we don't know, so it's hard to make a full comparison. We're talking about the gallery case though, there is one thing for certain. If it gets close to an 80 or 90 cent price point, I think it's a very reasonable purchase. That's because it costs you 80 cents with just the stars alone, not even including the time that it takes to get the case. We don't know where this case is going to go, but that is the baseline, which it is nearly impossible for it to drop below. Number 4 on my list is going to be going to the clutch case. Now, obviously the clutch case is one that many people are probably pretty familiar with. It was one of the most unboxed cases in previous years, and it has obviously fallen off quite a bit. With that being said, obviously so has the supply. The biggest thing holding the clutch case back in previous terms was the fact that it was so unboxed. It was in the active drop pool for like ever, and therefore the supply was able to build up massively. But I think we're now starting to get to the point where people are realizing the clutch case has some pretty strong potential behind it. Obviously there's a lot of investors, but there's going to be, with the rare case being at the second cheapest price point you can get at it. I definitely think if you're looking for a case that you're going to be able to hold on to for a long term, but you also know a fair amount of unboxing demand is always going to be there for it, I think the clutch case is a really good option for you to potentially look into. It's not perfect by any means, but for a 50-60 cent price point, I don't think you really can complain. Now, talking about these active duty cases, people love to dog on me, but I'm just personally not a fan. I think there's way too much risk for a lot of these cases out there. Obviously, the Dreams and Nightmares is one that nearly everyone looks to. The fact that it's nearly $2 or it's pushed $2 in the past or whatever price point it's sitting at, people love to say that and say that it's a huge opportunity. There is a potential with the Dreams and Nightmares case. It really comes down to the fact that I think you're investing way too much into a case that has way too much risk behind it. And honestly, when we're talking about active duty cases overall, that's kind of the majority consensus for most of these, in my opinion. A lot of these cases, we don't know when they're going to be moved out of the active duty pool, and therefore it's unlikely that they're going to be seeing massive growth while they're in the active duty pool. Obviously, we've seen it in the past, and it's probably going to happen again in the future, but I think rare cases are just going to be a much more consistent outlook compared to these active duty cases, but that's just my personal opinion. If you really are dying to go for some of these, you obviously have that chance. My number 3 case of 2025, it's probably going to surprise a lot of you. It's the Danger Zone case. Now, you're probably surprised it's not higher up on this list. The Danger Zone case is one that I have been absolutely stunned by the growth of the past couple of years. It's been an absolutely phenomenal case when it comes to investing. It's brought so much profit and it's got so much backing behind it. The big problem comes down to the fact that it's actually starting to get a little bit expensive now. Never thought we'd see the day where we say Danger Zone is starting to get to that point where it's a little bit more of an expensive investment, which is absolutely crazy. I definitely think the Danger Zone still has so much to offer and it's going to continue at that same level, but you do got to realize this case has gone up in price significantly, and when we're talking about the new era of CS2 investing, this is one of the cases that a lot of people have invested into, so the supply is not necessarily massive, but the investor supply is quite large. Now, talking about discontinued cases, we've got 3 ones that I'm going to include here. It's obviously going to be Riptide, Broken Fang, and Shattered Web. These are the 3 main discontinued cases that you might make an investment into. Esports cases are dumb. We're not going to be talking about them. Now, in terms of investment, theoretically, these are the safest case investment you can make out there. That's because there's no more of this supply coming in. Now, with that being said, obviously, you look at that price point. There is some risk that you're having with these cases. Obviously, it's not a massive amount of risk, but they're not risk-free as most people like to present them. You're still making an investment. I definitely think there is potential with these. If you want to hold them for a very significant amount of time, you are most likely going to make money. With that being said, I think your opportunity cost on these is way too high. You're not going to be able to get a huge amount of ROI with these compared to some other investments that are just a tad bit riskier in my personal opinion. These are a great safe option, but they're just not for me in the current market. The number 2 case on my list is actually going to be split. It's 2 cases. It's going to be your Prisma 1 and your Prisma 2. Now, these are some of the best cases I think you can honestly make for an investment when we're talking about consistently time and time again. They're usually number 1 or 2 on the list, and honestly, if we want to look at the growth that they've seen in multiple years, they are one of the best when we're talking about these cheaper rare cases. The unboxing numbers, absolutely amazing for these cases. I'm a huge fan of the Prisma 1, the Prisma 2. Honestly, there is one that's usually better than the other, but it's not by much of a margin. It really comes down to the price that they're sitting at that current moment. Both are very solid plays though. The biggest thing that the Prismas really excel at is the fact that they really haven't slowed down that much in their unboxing numbers. Obviously, every case has slowed down quite significantly. If we're looking at the overall case unboxing numbers, it is nowhere what we've seen just a couple months ago, but the Prismas have done a really good job at maintaining their market share. Because of the price point they're sitting at of around $1, it seems like they've been able to attract a lot of people to continually opening up this case, which is really good when we're talking about the longevity of profit for this case. I think they're doing in a very solid position, and they're one that I would definitely recommend if you're trying to get into the case market. Now, talking about an honorable mention real quick, I definitely think the Spectrum 2, the Wildfires, or the Gammas are definitely cases that you should be checking out if you've got an interest in there specifically. If you're talking about butterfly knives, the Spectrum 2 is definitely going to be one of my favorite cases. You've got your Butterfly Ruby, your Butterfly Sapphire, and a lot of really good consistent unboxing numbers coming consistently, obviously, from this case, and I think that's a very strong selling point. It's just not as good as the Revolver. Same with the Wildfire case. This is a really good case if you're not super interested in knives, but rather the skins that make up the ROI for the case. It's a very solid outlook, and it's definitely one that I would recommend. This one is also a little bit unique, being in the fact that most of the ROI doesn't come from the knives. If you've got a really good hankering on skins going up in the next year, it could potentially be an outlook there. And obviously, your Gammas are very solid as well. The biggest thing that holds back the Gammas is the fact that they're so similar in both of the cases. It's really hard for one to get an advantage, and when no one has an advantage, there's not as much profit to be made inside of this area. And finally, the number 1 case of 2025 in a potential investment opportunity, in my personal opinion, is going to be going to the Snakebite case. Now, obviously, the Snakebite has a lot of things holding it back, and I want to be very clear, it is probably one of the most risky options on this list, but it really comes down to one simple fact that trumps everything else. That's going to be the fact that it's like 30-ish cents for a rare case. Obviously, it is not going to be blowing up overnight, but the fact that you're able to get in on a rare case at this cheap of a price point, I think has been very overlooked up until this point. It's got a massive supply. It's going to take forever, theoretically, for that price to get moving significantly, but it's really coming up to a toss-up. Would you rather have 1 Prisma or 3 or 4 Snakebite case? When we're talking about ROI percentage-wise and the overall growth I think we're probably going to be seeing throughout the entirety of 2025, I think it's a really reasonable outlook to take the Snakebite cases, at least right now, for the entire year. That's all I got. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.